Do it again.
Again?
Yes!
Again.
Yay!
My name is Vera Elizabeth. I'm your Sergeant at Arms. Welcome to Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club of Fairfield, Iowa.
Yay!
What a great event we had at the library today, learning organic gardening. Did anybody go?
Jenny Marsh.
You can go. I see him there. I guess he's not here tonight. Anyway. Okay. And here's our president. The Bobbies.
Don't trust you for a buck.
Good evening and welcome
I'll give you
all
a dollar
once
next
again.
week.
The mission of every Toastmaster club is to provide a mutually supportive and a positive learning environment in which every individual has an opportunity
That's all right.
to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn foster self-confidence and personal growth.
Yay!
Once again, we have our distinguished guest, Terry, the Tooth Fairy, right?
Ah!
Thank you for being here. We know you all. Thanks for being here. Unless would you like to share anything now, right now?
I just have
I can't get away from it.
one quick thing. Hooray, hooray, the 1st of May. Outdoors necking starts today.
Oh! That's not how I heard it. That's not how I heard it. I heard it different. Yeah, she cleaned that up, didn't she? Woo, woo!
You got to start someplace.
Yes, yes.
And that was indoor necking.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
We'll move into the parking lot later.
In India, we celebrate May 1st, as a Labor Day, and it's a national holiday.
Yeah.
Russian thing.
Yeah, yes.
Good to know.
So happy May Day.
Yes.
Hey.
Now it's time to bring our Toastmaster Dan Craig to introduce the theme of the day and the role players. Dan Craig.
Yo!
Good evening, everyone. It is a gorgeous day out there. It is the kind of day that I think Bertram Wooster, you know P.G. Wodehouse,
Yes.
said it's the kind of day that makes a chappie wish he had a soul. Our quote is, "The world's favorite season is the spring. All things seem possible in May." And everything does seem possible out there. So let's start our possibilities by introducing the role players. First, our timer, Will Burns.
Yeah, well.
All right. Thank you, Dan. The job here of the timer, myself, is to keep the time here throughout the meeting. For table topics, they are from between 1 to 2 minutes, with the green at 1, yellow at 1:30, and the red at 2. Also, table topic speakers need to speak at least 1 minute to qualify for any purpose. Okay, for the prepared speeches, for Seth, 6, 7, and 8. Ron is 5, 6, and 7. And Art is 4, 4:30, and 5. Be aware, all speakers, that you have a 30-second grace period, and that also applies to our evaluators, who will evaluate 2, 2:30, and 3. Thank you.
You are a model of efficiency. And speaking of evaluators, our general evaluator tonight is Bert Chanowski.
Yay!
Our leader counter, Diane Dinbaum.
Ta-ta, I'll be collecting the ballots.
Combination ballot counter. Although we've already got ballot counters.
Oh,
We got Satish Sabapathy and Vera Rose. Those are ballot counters.
Yes.
so what am I doing?
You're the
like
leader
that.
counter.
What is the leader counter? That's what we want to know.
You make sure that people have gotten their roles evaluated in their leadership manual?
New to you.
Next, we've got Mongo Tamon, who's going to be our awe counter.
Good evening. My role for tonight as a counter is to keep a track of filler words. The filler words are like, you know, so, but, and, tongue click, pause, and I will let you know how many times you have repeated that you do not need, and you will know your score yourself.
Thank you.
Mongo is also going to favor us with a joke later. We've got grammarian Upendra Sharma. Upendra, please give us your word of the day.
Open the dictionary and the word on the top of the list on the page was free-handed. It means open-handed, generous. Free-handedly or free-handedness, and we know that at Toastmasters we give advice or mentorship free-handedly.
Yes.
I also look at the good use of language and not so good of language too.
Thank you, Upendra. I believe that's all the role players. So now it is time for table topics. Our table topics master tonight is Stacy Maurer.
Yo.
Tonight, for table topics, this is where anybody can come up and give an impromptu speech on a subject that I will read for them. It's related to the theme of tonight, which is May Day. Do I have any volunteers? Upendra?
Yo.
Choose a number between 1 and 5.
1.
Today's quote by Edwin Way Teal said, "The world's favorite season is spring." What is your favorite season and why?
What is my favorite season and why? When I think about spring, I also think about Stacy Moore. Spring, spring, spring. She just springs all over the counter, you know. She's giving her speech and she's like a spring. I say, is it the spring in her frings, in her feet? Or is it spring in her spirit? Or is it spring she brings in everybody's heart when she talks about it? And I said, yes, this is a spring. Look at all these rabbits are jumping around. Look at all these birds are flying. There's a spring in there. Flowers are booming up. Grass is coming out. Trees are looking even more beautiful. Not only that, clouds are springing through the sky, moving around. Is that why it is called spring? I will not say this is the world's most favorite season, because I have lived in an area where there is no season. Tropical countries, Arctic countries, you have cold, perennial snow throughout. But I think in their dream, they do spring. When they look at the spring picture, their heart is spring. When they look at the snow, they say, oh, we are so lucky. We don't have the snow. Or maybe we are not so lucky, we don't know what the snow is like. So I will still follow the quote, and that the world most popular, most favorite season is the spring, because it makes you spring. How you spring? You spring like a joy, as Stacy Morris personifies. Hey, this is spring, spring, spring. Thank you, Stacy.
Anyway, do I have another volunteer? I saw Seth first. Between 2 and 5? 3. May Day Today is a commemoration of the Haymarket Massacre of 1886 and the struggle for an 8-hour workday in Chicago. Do you have an 8-hour workday? What is the ideal number of hours in a day for you to work, and why?
Thank you. Massacres, huh?
Yeah.
That reminds me. I recently got massacred at the Division E contest. Yes, that's right. Once again, I placed second behind a very talented woman speaker. This seems to be a theme developing here.
Ladies first.
Going to division and losing to a very talented female speaker. But what I'd like to say about Division E contest is not about the massacre that I got in placing second in a contest of 2. It's about the job that Upendra did as a table topics speaker and contestant. I thought that Upendra did a fantastic job competing at the division level as a table topic speaker. He really represented Golden Speakers well. I was not representing Golden Speakers. I was representing Speakers Trust. So on behalf of Golden Speakers, I wanted to acknowledge Upendra. Fantastic job. I do think I gave the best table topics talk, even though I got second. That's in my opinion. I'm entitled to it. However, I am very aware that I did not do my best in this speech competition. If you get a chance to compete in the speech competitions at any level, I highly recommend it. It's a great opportunity to get massacred, and in getting massacred, we learn. I'm committed to being a world-class speaker. So I really have no problem losing at this point because I get information and it's like, wow, I just sucked. This is fantastic. I can learn. I can grow. There's all this room above me for me to fill into. That's a little update from Division E, and that's what I have to say about spring.
Yay!
Diane, I saw her next. Oh, you could choose 2, 4, or 5.
2.
Another one about today's quote by Edwin Wakefield. All things seem possible in May. What seems possible to you in your life now that didn't seem possible in the past?
Good evening, everyone. It's a big crowd tonight. Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home. What didn't spring? Possibility. What didn't seem possible and seems possible now is the question. So I'm going to spin off Seth a little in that I began a new business with my husband, Louis. Probably now, I think it was in 2000, well, I became a life coach in 2007, so somewhere around 2008. And I relate to what you said about being massacred. When you take 2 people, one is a former elementary school teacher, me. You take another, Louis Denbaum, former CFO, lawyer, accountant. You come out into the world and you train. You get your certifications, you tell people, we are life coaches, we are relationship coaches. Guess what, single people? We're going to help you find the love of your life and live the life you love. You travel, you go to book signings, you get invited to events in Cedar Rapids, you go on the radio, you go on a country station radio music in Cedar Rapids with mistakes galore. Ads in the paper that nobody responds to.
Preach it.
It just, I could go on and on.
Go
but
on.
Guess what? We've been told by the books we've read, the Think and Grow Rich, you can have it all, ask and it's given, I don't know, the rest of them. A momentum builds. A momentum builds. And just pick up and keep on going. And I'm telling you, I'm standing here now telling you, I am doing everything those books say, and just, down on the ground. But guess what? There's possibility that we're over the hill, the little engine that could, and there's a momentum that's building. And it's really possible. Lewis and I are rocking these days.
Yeah.
Yo!
That said, anything's possible.
I think we have time for more. Is there any? Rahul?
Tomorrow.
5.
May Day has a long history in Europe as a seasonal celebration of rebirth and hope. This May Day, what are you most hopeful about?
Thank you. This May Day, what I'm most hopeful about. One thing that I'm certainly hopeful about is knowing how to spring! 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 Second thing that I'm really hopeful about is to know and experience and feel how to get my jacket. Going into the division competitions and further competitions and further competitions from Toastmasters. Something which I'm still hopeful for is knowing all the possibilities in my life. As Diane just told, what she thought was not possible some time ago but now is. Good evening, friends, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home. My name is Rahul. Certainly, this day, today, the one thing that I'm most hopeful of is to be a good Toastmaster and to do things which I haven't done right and to learn from my mistakes and correct them to become a better public speaker and to help attain the goal of our club in order to become a better speaker and a better leader and a better mentor for many other people. Hopefully, this will come true someday in coming time, and I'm looking forward for that. Thank you.
Okay, let's vote for the best table topics speaker. Did all our speakers qualify well?
Yes, all speakers qualified. Upendra, Seth, Diane, and Rahul.
Senior trainer will evaluate our table topic speakers.
Don't let them off easy. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, honored esteemed guests, viewers at home, but mostly our table topic speakers tonight. Thank you very much for coming up. It was much appreciated. I'd like to start off with Upendra. Well, maybe I better not. My legs aren't up to this spring business. Last time I jumped real high, I came down and didn't land right and broke, sprained an ankle. I'm not going to be really jazzy around up here. However, I really enjoyed that spark of enthusiasm that he generated, and the audience enjoyed it too. A lot of people laughed. So Upendra had lots of body language in this talk tonight. One suggestion I have for you, Upendra, is to get a little more going with vocal variety. You've got the body language down, fantastic. You were out here in front of your audience, you paid attention to people on this side of the room, and then you moved while you were talking over here and paid attention to people on this side. What I mean by vocal variety is get our attention. You have a very good voice, it's really strong, it's very pleasant. What I suggest is that you know how to use it powerfully, and that's very good. I'd like you to practice modulating from very soft to your good volume speaking voice that you already have. Just practice on the softer side and use both the full range while you're talking. That's my suggestion for you tonight. Seth?
Yes, ma'am.
Your workday, 8 hours in the Boston Massacre about workdays. Of course, you're self-employed. I don't know if you count the hours every day that you work or not. Certainly don't punch time clock. But you segued into the contest, which is a very acceptable form in table topics. You can answer 3 ways. Directly answer the question. Segue, as Seth did, start out with the topic and then move into something else. Or just totally ignore the topic and jump right into what you want to talk about. All 3 are acceptable except in a contest. I did not have any suggestions for you. My bad. Diane. What seems possible in life now that wasn't possible later? I'd like to step back and say that the only person right now that had greeted out of their 4 table topic speakers, Rahul. Rahul greeted the audience, but the other 3, Rupendra, Seth, and Diane, didn't happen to greet the audience that I was aware of.
I actually did.
Okay, I missed it. Yeah. You took 30 seconds to think about your topic, or you could have done that. You did think briefly, and that's very allowable in table topics, and encouraged, actually. I don't have any suggestions for you. You were enthusiastic also. Rahul, you greeted the audience, and you got into the spring of things. I don't have a suggestion for you. But I did notice the improvement. You didn't happen to pace like you have in the past for other things. So that's a great improvement. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to turn the meeting over to our Toastmaster.
Go!
Thank you, Cindy, for those free-handed comments.
There you go.
And now, time for the main section of the meeting, or the second portion, which is our prepared speeches. We're going to begin by having Bill Dyer come up and read the objectives for Seth Brown.
Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home. I first want to point out that I haven't massacred anybody yet today. And that there's also another definition for freehand. Because you can put freehand as winging it. That you go outside of the lines and just do something different. Today is my pinnacle of my very short evaluator career. My very first meeting here, I got to have both Alex Sakea and Seth as speakers, doing very advanced speeches in 9 or 10, and that's what made me realize that I could be a good speaker, but there are a long ways from being a public speaker. And that's actually what made me join. So it's an honor to be evaluating Seth tonight, even though he did bring up the massacre aspect. So, let's get into Seth. Notice I don't have a book. Because we are freehanding this entire thing tonight. Seth has gone outside of the lines and dragged me with him. But because I have informed you, I have just dragged you with me and him as well, and you.
Here we go.
So Seth Braun provides winning formula for achievement and fulfillment through his talks, training, consulting, books, audio, video. Did I leave out anything? He also has a computer presence on the web. Seth is an in-demand leadership and creativity expert. He's a best-selling author, an award-winning speaker, except last division. What? There's a reason for that, and that was to get us to where we're at tonight with this speech. You're going to learn about leadership opportunities in Toastmasters, officer roles that give you a direct experience, and the creativity and leadership spark. Seth is going to tell you about that now, so please help me give an enthusiastic welcome to Seth Braun.
Yeah, that's the power of a well-written introduction. It makes you start from here, and you already are halfway done. Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, guests, it's so good to be speaking with you here. As you know, I'm preparing to go on a 3-week speaking tour, speaking to approximately 28 venues within the 3 weeks. Some paid, some workshops, some civic clubs, and a lot of Rotary clubs. Excuse me, a lot of Toastmasters clubs.
Ha!
I would like to be able to take you all with me next season for the inspirational speech contest. And I think this may be a key to success for our club. It just didn't turn down. I looked over and I said, wait, we need to bring our club with whoever is competing. We need to export our club out of Fairfield into these other cities because the chemistry is great. I think I'm a better speaker at my own club.
Of course.
Yay!
Of course! Always listen to Truth Fairies. Leadership in the Toastmasters Club. We have 2 ways to go with the leadership conversation. Plan A. Plan A is where I tell you that you've taken the Toastmasters oath, and you've committed to come to every meeting, and you've committed to step up into a leadership role when asked. Plan A is where I tell you that if you haven't stepped up into a leadership role, that you're not doing your duty as a Toastmaster. No. Plan A is where I tell you, you made an oath. You made a solemn commitment to us here, and you'd be very disappointed if you didn't accept your leadership role. And I'm not a big fan of that style of leadership, so we're going to leave Plan A over here. However, if Plan B doesn't work, we know we have a default setting to go to.
The world had one.
Plan B is my style of leadership, and that is to really get you to see what's in it for you to be an officer of the Toastmaster Club. So let's rewind, and I'll share with you how I became an officer. I joined this club after seeing Ed Hipp had won the humorous competition for the state of Iowa. And I thought, oh yeah, Toastmasters, that's what I need to do to further my public speaking career. And I joined, and wow, this club's amazing. Is this club amazing or what?
Yeah! Whoa!
I joined, and as you know, as a result of joining, I was a good speaker, I became a great speaker, and I am really committed to being an outstanding speaker. And coming to Toastmasters right here on Tuesday evenings is where I unwind a little bit. I get to be with you all on the path of get up, fall down, get up, fall down, and I get to just share that experience of what it takes to master an area of your life. That we get to come together, we get to commiserate on like, yeah, stay in the game, man. I know I know what it's like. I've been out there. I showed up for my talk. There were 2 people. It wasn't pretty. We could say, yeah, keep going. Because you'll get to the 20 and the 200 and the 2,000. And maybe you're thinking, wow, that's cool. I don't have any aspirations to speak in front of 2,000 people. I just would like to be a better communicator. That happens here too. And if you make one stride in your ability to communicate, just a little bit, we're going to celebrate that as much as someone who speaks professionally to a large audience. So here I am. I'm joining Ed Hip, inspired. What was it, 2 weeks? Second week I was here. They said, would you like to be Sergeant at Arms? It's really easy. All you have to do is come here, you set up the stuff, you ask people to help. And in fact, you don't even have to do it yourself. You just find people to help you do it, and you supervise. It's leadership. Leadership is ultimately you empower other people to get the job done. Okay, I can do that. I'm down with that. Sergeant at Arms, a month goes by. I'm here. I'm helping to set up. There's a lot of people. They're friendly. They're helping me. It's easy. They say, oh, our Vice President of Education just dropped out. You're reliable. You look like you're going to get things done. Would you be Vice President of Education? Now, let me explain to you that the Vice President of Education is the most difficult job in a Toastmasters club, at least in a club like ours. The Vice President of Education, Stacy, in this case, creates this matrix, makes sure people are scheduled for roles, speeches, and makes sure that you get an opportunity to speak on a regular basis if you so desire. Yes, we can clap for Stacy now. Awesome, I was there. I know about it.
Make her jump.
Yeah. I'll jump for her.
Yay!
Anybody else? VP of Ed? Anyone? Historically, boom, 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 okay. So, pat yourself on the back. It's a tough job. It takes a consistent, solid focus 2 hours every week, or more. Sometimes it takes a lot more, but you have to devote at least 2 focused hours. It's probably the most time-consuming task in this Toastmasters Club. I took this on. Now let me tell you, I am not a 2 hours focused scheduling kind of person. That's not my thing. You know, to get down with spreadsheets and factor people in and make sure everybody's getting their thing in detail. I hate it. To give you an example, when I was in high school, I was taking typing class. And I had a choice. I was either going to throw the typewriter, we had typewriters, Corona, Smith Corona. I was either going to throw this thing through the school window, or I was going to walk out of class. I walked out of class. That's the same thing, but you know why I took it on? To develop a part of myself that had a weak link in my business. As a result, I'm much better at scheduling, I'm much better at detail, much better at project management. And these are all skills as a self-employed entrepreneur with a couple contractors that work for me that I need to have. Even if I don't do it on a regular basis, I need to know how to do it so I can delegate others. Can I get an amen? You know what I'm talking about?
Amen!
So the first thing that you have the opportunity to do as an officer is to learn skills that are your Achilles heel. To bring yourself up in your ability where you might not be skillful. Fast forward, then I was asked to be president. Now president, that's something I can do. Facilitate meetings, help people stay inspired, bring enthusiasm, create leadership, hold people accountable, and not have to do any work during the week. That's cool. That's my kind of job. They say being president is the easiest job in a Toastmasters club. I would have to agree, for me. When I'm president of the club, I have the opportunity to use the skills that I use professionally, and you know, you've heard me say this before, many of you. That way, I don't have to get ready for consulting or facilitating or training. I
am ready.
I stay ready. That's right. Don't get ready, stay ready. So another way that Plan B style leadership can be good for you is for you to use skills and talents and capacities that you have naturally gifted and to keep them sharp so that you can execute. So before we wrap up for today, I'd like to see a show of hands. Who here is interested in some form of officer roles? And what are the officer roles? Who can name them?
President,
President,
VP of Ed,
VP of Ed,
VP of
Membership,
VP of Membership,
Treasurer.
Treasurer,
Marketing VP,
public
Secretary
PR.
of State.
VP of PR, Secretary,
Sergeant of Arms.
and Sergeant at Arms. I need to wrap up, but before I do, I'd like to know, who here knows that they're interested in one of these roles? Who here says, you know, I'm interested? Cindy, what role are you interested in?
PR.
All right. Well, we're not guaranteeing that you're going to get that yet, but what are you interested in?
I'm interested in serving the club in any role that the club would like me to serve as.
Who here is interested in being an assistant to a officer?
You're assistant, you might as well just do it.
Jean? Good.
Careful, area governor here.
And with that, I'm over time, and I need to close. Thank you, everyone.
thank you much.
Thank you.
Let's take 2 minutes and evaluate the speaker. Now, next we're going to have Rahul Vats read the objectives for Ron Care.
Yay!
I never thought I have to follow Bill Dyers. But here I am following Bill Dyers in reading the objectives for Ron Care. Ron Care is going to present the project number 3 from Competent Communication Manual, which is Get to the Point. And the objectives for Ron Care are: select a speech topic and determine its general and specific purposes. Organize the speech in a manner that best achieves those purposes. Ensures the beginning, body, and conclusion reinforce the purposes. Project sincerity and conviction and control any nervousness you may feel. Strive not to use notes. The time for Ron Care would be 5 to 7 minutes. Now, Ron Care is a student of the field known as traumatology. His study of trauma-related disorders is what he's going to share with us in a subtly hidden talk called Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. Let's give a free hand applause in welcoming him.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate that. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home. The field of traumatology is a relatively new one, the study of trauma-related disorders. Trauma-related disorders, what we hear mostly in the press these days is post-traumatic stress disorder. That's sort of the poster child. There are others in that listing. We're going to focus on that. There's not a lot of time for 5 to 7 minutes to go. But there's an important subtlety that my researchers, the experts, the folks that really work the field, still on the peripheral, have clarified. And I want to share it with you because I find it a very significant point everyone should know about. How many of you are familiar with, you hear it in the press, post-traumatic stress disorder? You've heard that too? Okay. And what context do usually you hear it?
War.
Military.
Okay. How about abuse?
Stress, spousal abuse.
Natural disasters, abuse, I'm sorry.
Spousal abuse.
Spousal abuse. Okay. So what we have then is through the normal course of life, we have ups and downs, that's fine, we learn to bounce with that. But once in a while we get hit really hard, too hard, and we're overwhelmed. So what a traumatic stress response is the body's way of dealing with kind of an abnormal or overwhelming stressor, over and above the usual range of things. The death of a near and dear one can give us many of the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, but if it's just what we call bereavement,
within about a month or so, 6 weeks, it'll dissipate and disappear. Time heals those wounds. Now, it may not heal completely all of those wounds, but those kind of things we get on with in life. But what constitutes a traumatic stress is something over the top. They tell us that war veterans, maybe a third, maybe 35% come down with PTSD. The disabled American veterans say it's 100%. Anyone who goes to war is traumatized. The only question is, how much? Mildly, severely, or overwhelmingly? The rape population, 100%. There are groups that go into the 100%. We heard about a few weeks ago, middle of the night, a tornado rips through a town in Illinois. People wake up in the morning, there's hardly anything left except the folks themselves. They're not going to be the same after that. They can't be the same. They've lost everything. That makes sense, and in a way, you can make sense of that. There is an important part, and I'll hammer it very quickly, that when we're traumatized, that trauma is insidious in the sense that we can get knocked down, stand up, dust ourselves off, somebody, hey, you're right, I saw you fall down, and they go, no, it's okay, I'm fine. But we're not fine. We're not. But that not fine, that hurt, that harm, that damage, that trauma to the system can sit within us. In the latency period, that is, there's only one word for it, it's called indeterminate. If you're familiar with that, it means they don't know how long it can sit. And 20 years is not out of the range. So you could have an event here, and 20 years later start having all sorts of symptoms, and not have a reason or a clue to think that has anything to do with it. But you've got to figure it out why, and then maybe it's my wife, maybe it's my boss, maybe it's this, it's that. And we go to the doctor, and they start to treat the symptoms, and it's not effective. In fact, I want to just take a moment now. There's an interesting phenomenon when you read symptoms is that people tend to say, oh, I've got that. That's me. Oh. So I don't think any of you have these, but I just want you to realize that these are some of the precipitators. We hit the big ones that we think about. The disasters, the war, rape, things like that. Fetal trauma. Birth trauma. It's so traumatic for some women that they'll actually go through like they're going through it again and again. And there's nothing going on, but they go through all the symptoms. Illness, high fevers, accidental poisoning, physical injuries, falls, accidents, sexual, physical, emotional abuse, including severe abandonment or beatings. This is not nice stuff, but these things happen to people. Witnessing violence. People who work in this field who try to work with trauma victims call compassion fatigue. They hear so much of it that sooner or later they're overwhelmed with it and they go down. A vivid description, a vivid portrayal in a movie is enough to traumatize people. Each of us is a very sensitive real person inside. It doesn't matter how rough and tough we think outside. Bottom line, we hit easy. Certain medical and dental procedures. Surgery, particularly tonsillectomy.
Really?
Yeah, with ether, particularly. And I went through that one and I was like, oh, wow, that explains something. Operations for ear problems. Lazy eye, remember when we were kids and they did this thing? And just a couple more, just to cheer it up. Anesthesia, prolonged immobilizations, casts, splints, kind of like Forrest Gump. He had those things on his leg, that kind of thing. So these are some of the precipitators, and since they're so innocuous in themselves, I mean, there's just simple normal, oh, you got this and you do that, and we fail to realize that this may very heavily impact the person. And as a result, people can grow up and does any of you know someone who has they're always complaining about something, we call it hypochondria. They always seem to have something wrong, they go to the doctor and the doctor can't find anything wrong. What happens is that when you look at the symptoms, the 17 symptoms, and I'm sorry, there's no more time, that's 17 symptoms in PTSD. Over time, with different degrees of severity, mix up an evil stew in each individual person that's unique, and the mind and the body are just too intimate. That trauma, sooner or later, will, as a shadow, rise up and cause physical symptoms. But since they're not organic in the sense that, oh, you got this or you got that, the doctor's examinations don't work. They'll say, well, we can't find anything wrong with you. So I'll send you to a specialist. People go to specialists, in fact, so I can't find anything wrong with you. They call it a red herring sometimes. It's just a fluke. But meanwhile, the person knows, it ain't a fluke, something's wrong. I know something's wrong. And that can precipitate too. So my purpose for sharing this discussion with you tonight is so that you know, individually, and for yourself and for friends, because sometimes you'll hear people say things, and you just know, but then we know that maybe there's something more deeply that should be looked into. Because the medical association at large, I mean the medical doctors, it's not the first thing they look for. It's not the thing almost anyone looks for. That was 20 years ago. Get over it. That was a long time ago. People went through a lot worse. That don't fly. If you've been traumatized, you've been hit. But be cheerful, because now we know, and we're better off. Mr. President.
Please take 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker. Our next speaker is so challenging that we had to import a special guest evaluator, a former member of Golden Speakers, a former founding member of Golden Speakers. Please welcome Terry the Tooth Fairy.
Yay!
Hello, Toastmasters, invited guests, and members of the general public. What a thrill. The birthday boy last week, he comes without the manual. His evaluator isn't here. Thank heavens tooth fairies are prepared. This is the final manual, or the final project, I believe, in the Persuasive Leader manual. It is a 4 to 5 minute speech. The objective is listening from yes. It's a heavy-duty subject, I would say. And this is an advanced manual. So Arthur has pointed out, or Art has pointed out that I'm to look for deep emotion, logic. I'm to adopt a point of view. And is he painting a field of possibilities for us all? So please join me in welcoming Arthur.
Good evening, Toastmasters and guests, my evaluator, and viewers at home. Most especially, viewers at home. The mission of every Toastmasters club, as Satish reminded us a while ago, is to create this positive, supportive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop verbal communication skills, leadership skills, all of which lead to this increases in self-confidence and generates opportunities for personal growth. Listening from yes is a term that I give to a key thing that we do in this club that creates that positive learning environment. And my job in the next few minutes is to persuade you that there's a huge benefit to you in learning this skill. And it's something you want to do. If you're a member, it's something that you just want to take on more fully, learning to really listen from yes. If you're not a member, you got to come feel what this is like. Because this is very different than a lot of things you may have experienced before. So taking off from where Seth left us. The impact on my life of learning to listen from yes has shown up in business because I aim to be a leader and a team builder in business. It showed up in my recreational situations because I dance with other people. I like dance, and it requires teamwork. And it shows up in family and home situations. Let me give you an idea of what listening from yes is by contrasting it with some of the other listenings that are possible. Let me tell you about listening from no, because I am very familiar with listening from no. I've spent much of my 66 years listening from no. And there's listening from nothing, which I heard about and learned about 10 years ago. These are two other ways of listening. Listening from no will be probably familiar to a lot of you because if you don't do it yourself, you've endured it from others. Listening from no is the listening of a critic. It's listening for what's wrong here. I grew up with a well-trained critical faculty, always listening for, do I agree with what this person is saying? And if I don't agree with you, what could be done so that I could correct this? What's wrong here is what I was listening for. Now that doesn't exactly foster harmony, doesn't foster team building. And Teddy Roosevelt had some pretty strong words about criticism and this style of listening or being. Let me read you something that he said. Probably many of you have heard this because it's a very famous quote. It was given in a speech in Paris in 1916. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who was actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without shortcoming, but who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself for a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Never been said better.
Preach it.
Yay! I was skilled at that. Listening from nothing is an incredible alternative to that I learned in a Landmark Education Communications Access to Power course. An incredible way of being that nourishes the listener. Coming from nothing, listening from nothing, is having absolutely no agenda but to be present and to absorb what the speaker has to say. And boy, does it generate incredible communication. And it's a practice that's similar to what we do here at Toastmasters, which I call listening from yes. You've heard of active listening. Listening from yes is a posture that we take here of how can I listen from contribution? How can I listen in with my critical faculty alive and operating for what can I bring to this listener, to this speaker, that will contribute to his message coming across more clearly. I'm not listening for, and I gave up the right to argue with his content. I think most of us in here, we just abandoned disagreeing with one another about content. Sure, Seth may say something I don't fully agree with. What I'm looking at is his technique of delivery. And can I offer anything that would make him a more effective in delivering his message? That is listening to yes, listening from yes, and boy does it have payoff. First of all, it generates a lot of harmony. When you can suggest something to somebody and say, wow, I didn't realize that I was cutting myself off at the knees by doing that. In my case, I've had plenty of people tell me that this is not the most effective posture from which to deliver a talk, but it's the habit I grew up with. The payoffs are numerous. Not only does it generate harmony, you get to exercise that muscle of having critical thinking attuned to what can be made better. And you get to have fun. I mean, the stories that we hear and hear from people range from Nepal, climbing up high mountains with porters dying to the left and right of you, to being life coach in the U.S., to the amazing stories that she has about growing up with her parents. The stories that you can hear if you are willing to listen from yes and allow that to come out of people make this place a lot of fun to be a member of. And with that, I call on the Toastmasters.
Yo!
minutes to evaluate the speaker. I have to say that I was so inspired by Bill's extolling the value of freehanding that I've decided we're not going to vote for the best speaker. We don't even need to vote for the best speaker, if you catch my drift. So now it's time to go to the evaluation section of the meeting, and to run that portion, here's our general evaluator, Bert Chinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home. What a stellar night of just incredible bouncing in and outside the lines of free-handedness. Not only were the speakers great tonight, the introductions were fantastic as well. And that really makes for a really great night, really sets the stage. It's my pleasure to introduce our first evaluator, Bill Dyer.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home, thanks for letting me come back. So it has been a night of free-handedness, and Seth left me to freehand this evaluation, but I want to give you rule number 1 for when you are up here freehanding an evaluation. Use this. You fill them out for everybody when you're sitting there. If you don't have a book to guide off, here's a guide. Now that's my free-handed opinion, which come out easily. So Seth came up, he did his greeting, he mentioned the importance of introduction and how that sets the stage for a speaker. And he stayed behind the podium. And he started his speech. And then got to a point and he transitioned out here. He went from introduction to his main body. And he did it as a plan. Plan A. Let me get your attention. What side of his body was plan A? Left side. Came over for plan B. What side of the body is plan B?
Right side.
Right side. When you're speaking in leadership, do you speak highly of your left-hand man or your right-hand man?
Left hand, of course. Particularly if you're left-handed.
I did say man.
Gotcha.
I just knew you were coming. See that use of stage?
Listen with yes.
That's a professional. Subtle. Now, I'm not even going to accuse Seth of planning that. I think at times things just happen inherently. But then what happened from plan B is we discussed a particular position. The center position of being in Toastmasters, which is what?
VP of Education.
VP of Education, right? Bam! Right here. Acknowledge the VP. Acknowledge every past VP. Did you feel that? Did you feel that sincerity? Totally in your face. Then back up here for his closing, but he also did a call to action. How many of you volunteered tonight for a position that you didn't even know you were supposed to, you were going to get? So with that, I'll give him this, as you will, and I'd like to thank you for your speech tonight. Thank you, Bill Dyer.
Next evaluator is Raul.
Bill is a pro, but I'm a newbie. And being a newbie, I like to stick to the manual.
Yay!
That's cool.
And it's always tough when you're evaluating a speaker who is a professional. And Ron Kerr is no exception. He's definitely a pro at speaking. But I'll try my level best to evaluate according to the manual. The speech was CC3, get to the point, where Ron had to make sure that he gets the general purpose and the specific purpose very clear. I felt Ron's general and specific, both purpose were very clear and very, very appealing with the way he presented his talk. The speech organization was very well supporting his specific and general purpose. Ron's content with the points and examples of the symptoms that he shared of various different post-traumatic disorders contributed very nicely to his specific and general purpose. Now, the list here says, was the general purpose of the speech clear? Yes, it was very much clear. Was the specific purpose of the speech clear? Yes, again it was very much clear. Did the speech organization supported the speech specific purpose? Yes, his organization in which he presented the material, he started off telling why he is going to share what he is sharing. And then he presented different examples of different disorders. It was very effective for me to get the idea, though I'm no expert in the field of his study, but I felt I understood a lot. So thank you, Ron. He had a great beginning, great body, and great conclusion, which reinforced the speech that he was sharing. There was one thing which I would like to suggest Ron, which was he was too fast, maybe for me at least, because it was very difficult for me to follow, Oh, so maybe Ron, one thing that you could have done is to, pace a little bit more, slowly taking some pauses, letting the audience digest what they were trying to. And another point that I felt was that though he didn't use notes, but there was little note which if he could have used in a manner where they were adding a few more points to support, that could have been good. But besides that, the presentation was very informative. I liked the content material present in context of talk. Another thing that for suggestion is if you could have given a few examples to help me understand or other people understand better from stories of some example of some people that you might have known because you are a veteran. You have seen a lot of those cases. It could have helped. But overall, I felt it was a great talk from a great speaker and a great human being. Thank you, Ron. Look forward to hearing many more.
Yo!
Thank you, Rahul and I And finally, I've never had this opportunity to introduce a tooth fairy. Please welcome Terry the Tooth Fairy. I had him pulled and he brought out this like post-traumatic stress of pulling my teeth.
I wondered what...
That was another story.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests, TV audience, and especially dear Art, the birthday boy. You know, Art, old hippies never die, we just regroup. And thank you for regrouping into Toastmasters. I mean, Landmark might have given you the kickstart, but by golly, I think that Toastmasters has got you by the you-know-whats. Without further ado, I felt that if Ralph Smedley had been here tonight, he would have been so impressed with the golden speakers. He would say, hip hip hooray, the cornfields have finally got it together. And I am so delighted to be here. I mean, to go to International is one thing, but to come home to the Golden Speakers is like being in heaven. And I'm so honored that you asked, even after I gave you that birthday card that nobody got to sign last week. Old hippie. I felt great emotion. I felt sitting here, I was just spun right into the club. I realized that, you know, we all have a background, and I grew up as growing up above a dance hall. I mean, you want to be a dancer, kid? Dance at the Shark Club in Hubbard's. I'll give you a dance around the dance floor. Teddy Roosevelt's a quote from 1916, I couldn't get it all down, not being an American, was very catchy, very timely, I felt. And I think that it was very apropos you would use that this evening to tie us all in to your final project and listening from us, from Yes. You were very systematic in your delivery. I can tell you're a Taurus. Materialistic, perhaps, but I'm not sure. That's the Western astrology, not the Jyotish. How can I listen? By contributing. I felt that we all gained a great deal of information by what he had to share with us. That we are all here, you know, as a storyteller, you ask children, how many ears do you have? And of course, children always say, 2. No, let's think about this again. How many ears do we have, boys and girls? 2. No, we listen with our hearts. And in Toastmasters, that's very important, listening with our hearts. So remember, the heart value comes into every single word we deliver as a Toastmaster. And that's critical in everything we say and do, Steph. It comes from the heart. Before it comes from any other spot in your being, it comes from the heart. And as a storyteller, I've learned that time and time and time again. And that's critical in today's communication. Free-handed in his approach, I felt art is hardly timid. That landmark course plus Toastmasters have given you vital tools on the road to success. Congratulations. I look forward to many, many more speeches.
Yay!
Great speeches, great evaluations, and now we've got a great timers report.
Vote first.
Oh, vote first. Yes, vote for your best evaluator. Mr. Timer, did everybody qualify?
Bill and Terry qualified.
How about Cindy?
No.
No Cindy, no Rahul, just, again, Bill or Terry.
Wow.
Welcome back. And now we will get our reports from the evening from our role players. And the first one is our timing report from Mr. Will Burns.
Thank you, Mr.
Will.
Mr. General Evaluator. So, table topics: Upendra 149, Seth 153, Diane 227, Rahul 143. Speeches: Seth 942, Ron 727, Art 703, Cindy 348, Bill 313. These are now into our evaluations. Rahul 334, Terry 318. And that's my report. Thank
Yay!
Next, we'll have the report from the on-counter. Mr. Mongol, come on.
Thank you. Report of R counter from table topic speech. Wilborn, clear. Upendra Sharma. 1, Seth Brown, clear. Diane Denman, 1 Rahul, 2 and. Cindy Trainer, false start. It may be, yeah. I don't know about that. It's a no. From speech, Bill Dyer, 1 show. Seth Brown, 1, Rahul Bhatt. And Art, 1 1 and. From the evaluation, Rahul, 1 2 two, one so, one but, two and. Xerox, very, now the. Terry, three, I'm not sure you are doing a demo or you are, you did that, 3 times. And Bart on the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a report from our grammarian, Upendra Sharma.
One of the day free-handed was used by Dan, Bill, Seth, Rahul, Bert, Tooth Fairy, but Bill mastered the free-handedly. Dan, I like some of the expression, like will spin off, and momentum was building or something like that. Cindy, spark of enthusiasm, practice on softer side. Bill, pinnacle of my short evaluator career. And Seth is going to pull me out of the, drag me out of the line with it. Whatever. Seth, we have a default setting. Rahul, I think we are both Indian and we have a way of pronouncing word. Determine and veteran. We can find out how to pronounce it rightly. Newbie, I like your word very much. Art Atkinson, listening from no, nothing and yes, very nicely built up. Generates a lot of harmony. I can feel the harmony which was generating. Allow that to come out of people. Very good expressions. Tooth Fairy. Spun right with the club. Very systematic in your delivery. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is our joke master.
Yay.
Welcome back, Bunga. Come on.
Fellow Toastmaster, especially viewer at home, you missed a lot today. We didn't come to show here. And I would like to always come if you have a free time and enjoy, have fun and learn. Who spends more money in a day than he earns in a month?
Seth.
Idiot? President? Seth? That is Mangal. I spent $29 to go and see Chinese dragon acrobat last Saturday. I compared that to what I was earning in 1998. In a month, my salary was 800 rupiah divided by American dollar 75, which comes to $10.66.
Wow.
Work hard, save money, spend work.
Yep.
Always opportunity to come to here and learn and grow. Thanks.
Thanks. Now it's the time in the meeting where I evaluate the evaluators. And before I say that, I'll say it again. This has just been a stellar evening of speeches. It was like all the all-stars showed up. And it was just thrilling. And also we had all-star evaluators as well. I'm going to start with the table topics evaluation. And I was really looking forward to Cindy's evaluation tonight of our table topics. But I have to tell you, it came a little bit short. And the reason being was, you only really had comments for one of the speakers, and that was Upendra. And he said he had great vocal variety, and obviously he had great body language. Everybody could see that. It was just a terrific talk. And I think there's certainly something constructive we could have added to Upendra, but certainly after that, you basically said everybody else didn't really have much in the way of comments. And I think if I was to add to and suggest a couple of comments, what I saw, since it was sort of lacking, I would have said to Seth, that was a great segue. Using the massacre and how you moved it to massacre. But you could have done it even better, because part of the topic was 8-hour days. And you could have added somehow a construct of hours in there and say, you know, I've spent 8 hours every day the last several days thinking about how I could have done better or structured, and then got into the massacre of which you described pretty well. And I think that would have made it even better. That's what I think. Rahul could have said to Rahul, hey, listen, you are a confident speaker, and you're really coming into your own, but you could use a little bit more groundedness on the stage, because you have a tendency to pace, and tonight you did a really great job, but even be a little bit more grounded to make your points here, here, or here, and really connect with people. And that's what I would have said to Rahul, but it was not so great. Diane, you said to Diane, really didn't have much to comment, but Diane obviously went over time. You probably didn't know that, but she started out kind of choppy, a little bit maybe nervous, really wasn't in the flow so much. So my suggestion would have been to Diane to say, take a little bit more time. You have a natural flow. And when you start talking, you're a natural. But tonight you were just a little bit choppy, so just maybe take a little bit more time to begin or make a point and just pause and make the point. So anyway, that was my suggestion for you, but you were, in my heart, very stellar, but tonight, not quite so much. All right.
Thank you.
Anyway, so next is Bill Dyer. What a great introduction. I would like to take you everywhere I go speak. Do the introduction, because your introduction was as good as any speech tonight. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, variety of, I'm sure Seth had something to do with it, but the delivery of Bill, given the context, gets us engaged, gets us all involved. And he uses such great vocal variety because he has a booming voice, but also he knows when to soften it up and makes his point. And he is so creative in terms of his spontaneity. In terms of his evaluation, my recommendation to Bill is everything was great, except he really didn't have anything constructive to say for Seth. You really made all of his great points, but nothing really constructive. And what I would have suggested, since you didn't, to Seth is, your conclusion just wasn't that strong. Trying to get people signed up, it turned into a meeting as opposed to concluding a great speech. Could have done that afterwards. So that's, in fact, I think the theme tonight, at least for me overall, was conclusions all could have been stronger. Next was Rahul evaluating Ron Kerr, which I thought you did a terrific job, because you recreated all really the great points for Ron, and you also have very constructive criticism, if you will, suggestions. And just speak in a little bit more slowly, make your points just a little bit more clear. And I thought that was really great. The one thing I would say to you is don't apologize. You apologized twice. And your construction for Ron should be, he apologized twice. I don't think anybody really ever has to apologize when you get up on stage. Say, hey, it's tough to follow Bill. You can give him a compliment, but don't. It sets you down like, I can't perform at that level, and I think you can. Finally, Terry the Tooth Fairy. What a thrill to have a rainbow of hippiness pervading the room, and with all the colorful language. And really in terms of the great storytelling, and she basically took art and really made a point of talking about, made his strongest point for him in his talk. Remember what it was? Heart. Listening from the heart, which I thought was missing from his talk. It's like listening from, yes, she said it even better. It's listening from your heart. And that was really a beautiful way to evoke and really capture and make it positive and really reinforce his talk. So thank you for that. My only suggestion for you is, we're kind of parked here. You know what, you're colorful, move your color around the stage. Anyway, thank you very much.
Now, it's time to present the awards. So could we have a drum roll, please? Andrew Sharma.
Yo! Yeah.
Now you have to buy it.
And another drum roll for Best Evaluator. Bill Dyer. And finally, a drum roll for Best Speaker. By unanimous acclaim, Ron Kerr. And now I'm going to reintroduce our president, Satish Sabha.
Now it's time to hear from our guest quickly. So, do you like to introduce yourself and say what you appreciated about the meeting tonight?
Well, it's... Yeah, do I have to wake up?
Yeah.
Actually, it's the first time I was present to such an occasion, and I'm really impressed.
Oh. Thank you for being here.
So what I noticed was that you actually really develop the skill of expressing the ideas, speaking up, and stand for what you really want to tell to others. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. What are your name?
Andrei.
Andrei.
And where are you from?
Slovenia.
Slovenia, okay.
And I'm Natasha, and I'm also from Slovenia.
Is Diane, VP of Membership.
Yeah.
And we have another guest here. You'd like to share your experience today and your name.
Hi, my name is Slobodan. Actually, I invited those two guests too. I came here to be traumatized again. But now that I know we have an expert how to do with that, I think I'm ready to sign in.
For stepping up today and helping us to do
My family, I'm not a guest.
Thank you. And now I'd like to invite Tom to share a piece of information.
Tom. Golden Speakers has been invited to make a presentation at the district-wide conference on May 18th. It will be from 1:45 to 2:25. We are just prior to a keynote address by Rich Hopkins, who is a two-time finalist for Best Speaker in the World. He will be doing a keynote right after us. So far, 4 Golden Speakers have agreed to go along to help. If anybody else would like to come up and either just come up for the afternoon.
Where is it being held?
It's being held just north of Des Moines, Johnson County.
Johnston, it's just the northwest suburb in the Stony Creek Inn.
Yeah.
Real easy to find.
They've already closed out the rooms, but they may still be available. But some people are just going to go up and back. The more people we can have, the better. We've done this once before, just for the officers of the district. This would be as a major presentation to every Toastmaster who comes in the state. And we will be doing our little shtick about how to get 100 guests inside of your meeting room. So think about it, let me know soon. I sent everybody an email today. Bert's gonna go, Jean's gonna go, Ed's gonna go, Cindy's gonna go, Tom's gonna go. So anybody else who'd like to join us?
It's just a great event, and nobody should miss it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great speakers, great presentations, everything. It'll be a wonderful opportunity.
Is
So
that a Friday, Saturday? What
Friday, we're going to be on Friday afternoon. You can come up Friday and go back Friday, or you can come up and stay.
Stay overnight. And if there's not rooms there, the hotels aren't that expensive.
Yeah, there's
I
no
can
pricing
recommend
there.
some nice hotels that aren't too far away that are fairly inexpensive.
Yep, so just think about it, get back to me as soon as possible. But I am writing up a little thing, so we'll all be having an opportunity to shine.
17th and 18th, I believe, right?
18th and 19th. Friday's the 18th, and we do need to be there in the room, in the hotel by 1:30, because we have a 1:45 presentation. Cindy and I are going to be there early. She's taking the whole day off.
Okay.
So good luck. Yes.
Quickly, I'm playing the Queen of England on May 21st at the Jefferson County Public Library. I need some ladies in waiting. I wondered if Miss Australia, you would like to step up and be the Queen's.
She'd be perfect.
And if there are any other royalty, I think we have a royal prince from India here. We are going to be wearing the garb of the country. We are officially celebrating the Queen of England's 60th year on the throne of England. And my great-uncle was her personal doctor. So we have lots of tales to tell.
Yes, yes.
We're going to have fun. Okay. May 21st.
I'll get one too. I'll get one too.
Yes, we're running late. But
the next TEDx event in Fairfield is TEDx Fairfield Live. Easy day to remember, it's my birthday, June 27th. We will have live webcasts from Edinburgh, Scotland that day, but we're also looking to do an evening program on our time with some really great speakers. I already lined up a few people to do performances. We're also looking for people to perform or do music. And so if you're interested, or if you're interested in speaking at any one of the 140 locations that have TEDx events around the world, you should talk to me, because we should set up a time to get you oriented on this, because I'm connected with a lot of the TEDx organizers now. Phyllis Kerr, who did our club event recently, her video was, she did TEDx Fairfield Women event last December 1st. She's now in consideration to speak at the national or the international TEDx women's event this fall, because they were so impressed with her presentation and certainly the video production and all that. So I really encourage that. I was just at the TEDx Summit. I got to give 3 TED Talks. Can you believe that?
Wow.
And this club really prepared me for, because the first one, I was the first one up. They said, you have 30 seconds, 3 sentences. What's your big wish?
Oh!
Next one, I had 3 minutes, talk about Fairfield, City 2.0. And the third one, I videotaped a 30-second talk on positive thinking for TEDx Khartoum. Anybody know where Khartoum is? Sudan.
Yes.
So I was in Sudan last week by video.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Thank
So this is regarding a possible new prison club in the Mount Pleasant facility there. There is a guard who is from the Fort Madison who's commuting, believe it or not, but he lives in Fairfield. He's not going to be in Fort Madison. He's being transferred into this Mount Pleasant, so he's very familiar with Toastmasters. He's a really big supporter. And for those of you that are looking for leadership credit to be able to become a distinguished Toastmaster, one of the requirements is to be a mentor or a coach or a founder. Sponsor of a new club. And so here's a club that's just, literally half an hour away, that could be it's in the formative stages. And there's, so if you're interested, you've heard me talk about how rewarding the Fort Madison Club is. Just raise your hand or something, because this could be an opportunity for you to get that credit
and in a fairly close, easy way, and in a very rewarding situation as a result. Okay.
Go!
About the club thing. Members, if you have any of the club resources in the form of DVD, video, or books, which you might have borrowed from Ron Care, please bring them all next week. We are going to make an inventory and maintain a library, and it will be more organized from next week onwards. So please remember to bring all the resources you have. Thank you, and see you all next week. Meeting everyone.